Bring the stream. There we go. It's been live streamed. You got it? Excellent. So everyone can hear, right? Everyone can hear. So let's begin for everyone who's just joining us. And this is going out on our podcast as well, the Three Teachers podcast. For those that are listening, I am Ken and I'm a native British English teacher. And I've been getting so many questions from people on my Facebook page and on my Instagram page. And I decided instead of just boring old me, telling people what I think, I decided to put three teachers together and we can talk about what people are asking. So my name's Ken. We've got Andy. Say hello, Andy.
Hi, hello.
Please introduce yourself, Andy. Where are you from?
Okay,
These people don't know you.
All right. So for those who don't know me, I am Andy from Andy's Everyday English, and I've been a teacher for about 14 years now, specialized
14 years?
Yes,
you don't look old enough.
It doesn't look like it. I know. Thanks, Mom and Dad, for the good genes. But I've been working as a teacher slash coach for about 14 years now, specialized in second language learners. And I think that it is, working on this field has been my true calling. And
really?
Yep. Recently, I have transitioned into working into Cambridge exams and certification exams generally, because I have done the TOEFL, the IELTS, the Trinity exam. I have done it depending on the country because the demand changes. And apart from that, I also do business English because in my 14 years as a teacher, I have worked with children. I mean, I've gone through all the stages since nursery, then elementary school, high school, university level, and then I've focused on certification. So and then adults, of course. So yeah, it's been a ride.
Excellent. Andy, welcome. Nice to see you. And we know each other already, but this is the first time for me that I have met Claudia. Andy's friend, Claudia. So, Claudia, say hello.
Hi, hello.
Let's hear a little bit about yourself.
I'm Claudia. I'm from Italy. I'm a baby because I'm 28 and I have like 5 years of experience in the teaching field. And currently I teach business English, but I've also taught at the university translation. So I have also an academic experience from that point of view. And now I'm working as a freelancer. I have my own online business. I train young people who want to improve their English for working purposes. So I help them building their curriculum in English, preparing for a job interview in English, and generally improve their English for to attend, for example, business meetings or to deliver a presentation, something like that.
Fantastic.
And I'm very proud of my students. I really like what I'm doing right now because I do it my own way, with my own pace, respecting my timetables, even creating a more efficient time work-life balance, let's say. So yes, I was sharing with Andy the other day the fact that I was struggling being like in the flow of creating content and with my students. It could be really, really overwhelming sometimes, but it's also very fulfilling and
is this content for your social media
Instagram,
platforms?
Media? Yes, exactly. Right. Because I try to be present on social media to reach as many people as possible, to provide my services to people who really need this. So
Excellent. I was saying before I came on here that I'm a native speaker. I've been teaching. I'm from Scotland. I've been teaching for about 15 years all over the world. The last 10 years I was teaching in Asia, teaching university graduates how to prepare for interviews as cabin crew, flight attendants, with airlines all over the world. But even though I'm a native speaker, and I always thought, Andy, you were a native speaker as well, and it's just an amazing accent you have. I always feel that non-native teachers always provide something much more than what native teachers can, a different perspective on, in learning a language, So I'm always really keen to get different viewpoints and thoughts on what our students are actually asking us,
Yeah.
So welcome along, Claudia. I'm really nice to see you, really pleased to see you. And hopefully we can crush through some of these questions that people have been asking us. Yeah. So we're live on Facebook. We're live on Instagram. No, we're not on Instagram. We're on YouTube, I think. And we'll be putting this out onto the podcast as well. If anyone's on Facebook or YouTube and want to ask a question, then feel free to just jot down in the comments. I've got it here. So there we are. So as I said, I've got thousands and thousands of questions from students all over the world. And instead of me just answering the questions, that I really like to get a different kind of perspective from other students, other teachers, sorry, and how they actually answer things, because I feel it's quite important to get different viewpoints. Okay, so let's have a look. We'll just dive right in. We've got a few questions that we asked. Okay, so can everyone see this? Can you see this? Is this loading?
Yes.
Are we live and direct? Okay. So what I always say is, always get a good tagline and elevate your English. Put your English up to a new level, okay? First question that I've got is this. This was a question that was asked on my Instagram, and it is how to build rapport with patients in my daily practice. Now, I was talking with Andy about this before, and I suddenly clicked on my patients. Somebody's a doctor, so how are you going to build rapport with patients in your work? For those that don't know, rapport, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, it's all about building a relationship, finding something in common with someone. It's very, very important to build a rapport when you're dealing with customers so that people can trust you, etc. Yeah. So Claudia, I'll go to you first, since you're the newbie here. You're dealing with kind of students, English learners in a business environment. Yeah. What's your advice for learners to build rapport with their with their customers, etc.? What would be your advice for them?
Surely starting from small talks. So try to create a communication channel, let's say, in the simplest way that you can think of. Let's think about how we create a report in Italian, in our native language, let's say. We start with like very common things as a topic of our conversation, and then we gradually progress to more complex and introspective topics. So a good
introspective. What does introspective mean? For those that don't know. Yes,
meaning like more psychological topics, let's say, more yes, profound and personal topics. Yes. But you can start like from the weather. You can start from just asking, how are you? This could be a very underrated but very good question to pose, let's say. So yes, start from what you know. This is start from your comfort zone for something that will make you feel at ease with the conversation, because otherwise also nervousness could play an important role in building a communication, building a rapport. In this case, it's building a communication channel, let's say. So yeah,
I'd like to jump in here.
Yes, Andy.
About small talk. I talk so often about small talk on my page because a lot of people always say, "Oh, I hate small talk and I don't like small talk here and there and whatever." And I'm like, "Of course, you're talking about the weather all the time." And I can bet that you are just thinking about, especially for example, from a linguistic perspective, you're like, "Okay, I am going to, if the person is talking about the weather, I'm thinking more in my answer rather than paying attention to what the other person is actually saying." So, I will go now that we're talking about going deeper, in order to actually get better conversations, you can have quality small talk as long as it's genuine and you try to actually connect to to connect with this person. For instance, building a rapport. That's why I love this collocation, to build a rapport.
Yeah.
It's something that you start from scratch. There's like nothing. I mean, there is nothing more beautiful than two strangers getting to build a rapport, because from there we can got friendship. And for instance, if we're talking from a business perspective, you can find a business partner. I mean, we marry a stranger. Hello. The person that at the beginning was an absolute stranger, after small talk and then deep talk, this person can become our partner. So it is really interesting that a lot of people say, oh, I don't do small talk. And I'm like, okay, really? So you start talking about Seneca and philosophy. I mean, I would be deeply intimidated. Or maybe if I'm, like, I don't have the English level. Imagine if that person start talking about really deep stuff. I'm going to be absolutely like, mom, it's like, yeah, like
keep stum.
Yes.
I don't know, what is your what are your thoughts about this?
I think I used, my background is in finance. When I left school, I moved to the financial capital of Scotland in Edinburgh, and I dealt in finance for about 10 years. And one of the things they always said, when you're speaking to customers, find a contact point that you can start kind of having small, as you say, small talk, but small conversations. Small talk is generally kind of, I feel, small talk is like passing the time of day. Whereas rapport, you're actually trying to ask questions to build, as you said before, to build on something, So why are you wanting, and going back to the question, how to build a rapport with patients, I guess when it's a medical thing like this, I guess people are trying to make the customer or the patient to feel calm or to feel relaxed in your company. So I guess that is, I guess building a rapport there is pretty different to most people kind of building a rapport on the street or building a relationship in business, etc. You have to find out, why are you wanting to build this rapport? Are you wanting to calm someone down so that you can, be their doctor, as in the question here? Or are you wanting to speak to someone to build a business relationship? So, I mean, there are kind of no topics, I guess, like in any language, there are kind of what I call no topics, where we don't really want to ask too many kind of private questions. Things like, what's your religion in British English would be, I don't think, or how much money do you earn is a no in British English. There's also, when I was in Thailand, I don't know, there were some conversations that people would start, and it's a very affectionate way to call someone, and that is the word fatty. They would say, hello, fatty, hello, Owen, is the Thai language for fat. And at first I was like, why are you calling people fatty? It's very insulting, And another one they had was, Din Kalru Yang, have you eaten yet? This was a conversation starter to building rapport. And I always used to think, why are you asking me if I have eaten yet? And I thought it was really strange, but it's very caring for them to ask, are you eating? Do you have enough money to eat? Are you taking care of yourself? And looking at the psychological kind of part of it, it's really kind of interesting, why they do that. What's the main kind of conversation starters in Italian, Claudia?
In Italian?
Yeah.
Maybe, of course, the weather. We talk a lot about the weather as icebreaker, let's say.
Why do you talk about the weather there? I know why they do it in British English. The weather changes every 10 minutes in the UK. In the morning it can be snow, then rain, then sun. And why in Italy?
I don't know, really. I don't really know. But I found myself very often talking about the weather with even people that I know well. So, but just like saying, oh, look, there is a very beautiful day. It's a very beautiful day. It's sunny. So like silly things that would
Uh-huh.
get the conversation start. But
Mhm,
yes,
mhm.
maybe the weather, but also professional questions, like I don't know,
Uh-huh.
like
Such as.
based on your profession, like
Mhm.
what do you do for living? Basically, this could be
Yeah,
another
yeah, yeah.
conversation starter.
That could be a kind of. I've heard some English learners, they get a bit confused when we say, "What do you do?"
What
A
do you
lot of
do?
them, kind of think, "Oh, how do you do?" Or they're not actually making the connection between what do you do, meaning what is
How
your
do you do?
profession.
Okay.
And it's something that kind of English learners should need to know. These small questions that mean kind of a
Yeah.
lot. Yeah, yeah. What do you
Sure.
do? Yeah.
What do you do? Yes, exactly. Um, Even food. Yes, we talk a lot
Oh, do
about
you?
food.
Uh-huh.
But we are food-based culture, so
I'm
yeah.
half Italian, and I've got to say that we've got the nonna really, deep in our back minds. And the thing
Yes.
is that asking someone if you have eaten is
Mhm.
like perhaps, not so far.
A sign of
Uh,
caring. Yeah.
Yeah.
exactly.
Yes,
Like,
of
have
affection.
you
Yes.
eaten? Like, did you have, especially like, have you have lunch or dinner?
Hmm.
Because breakfast, well, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But in this case, for example, when we're talking about like lunch or dinner, I think that it is kind of like, have you eaten?
Hmm.
Yes, exactly.
And even if you're in a professional report, in this case, if this coworker of yours, I mean, you've been working with this person for months or even years, this is such normal question, because usually, we work long hours at the office, and we know that sometimes this person can skip
Meals.
lunch or dinner. Exactly.
Hmm.
So there you go.
Hmm.
So it's not so crazy here in Spain. For example, I'm based in Spain,
Uh-huh.
and kind of like very similar, very Mediterranean costume, like, have you eaten? So that is a normal one.
Yeah. It's
Uh-huh.
like asking, are you okay?
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
like more or less like that.
But
Yes.
for example, if I'm having a conversation with my neighbor,
Uh-huh.
that is the kind of small talk that sometimes is automatic. It's like automatic mode.
Mhm.
And conversation is like, and you can have the same exact conversation with this neighbor, or, with the doorman, at your
Uh-huh.
building, or something like that. Like the typical, how are you? Fine. And you? Great. Okay, see you later. Okay, bye. How are your kids?
Uh-huh.
Yes, about the
Questions.
family. Also, questions about the family. Yes,
Yes,
Mhm.
exactly.
exactly. So
Claudia, oh, sorry, I was going to say, Claudia, you said a question there. Are you okay?
Are you
Is that
okay?
how do you feel if someone asks you that? I've had students. I remember I had a student who might be watching this, and she would say to me, "Are you okay?" How would you feel if someone said, "Are you okay?" What's your initial thoughts about that? Because for me, if someone says, "Are you okay?" I automatically think,
it's weird, yeah.
What
Are
do you
they
know about my
concerned?
health? Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Are they concerned about me? Yes, that's the thought. Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
Maybe it's like the how are you thing, like, how are you? Right?
Mm.
No, but if they ask you about the food, it's like it's more intense. Like, are you okay? Have you eaten? Are you sure that you've eaten enough? Are you sure that
Uh-huh.
you've eaten
Exactly.
enough?
It's
Yeah.
different. Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
intense, very intense. So I mean, when I was learning Spanish, one of the things I would do is I would kind of be walking to work, and I would have these conversations in my mind about going into a coffee shop or into a restaurant or somewhere, and I would have these two-way conversations. And this was me kind of practicing how to build rapport in Spanish, Hola, buenos dias, ¿cómo está? And I would have these two-way conversations. And that really kind of helped me when I was learning a new language, just to
Yeah.
have a kind of stock or a list of questions or conversation starters that I could
Exactly.
use when I was not speaking English, speaking in a different
Mm-hmm.
language. How would you advise your students to have the confidence to start a conversation, to build rapport? What would be your number one thing or your go-to thing that you would tell your students to do, Andy?
Well, I think that I said it before. Just be genuine. I know that if you talk to my mother, she would be like, don't be so much yourself, kind of like tone it down a little, because I know that I can come up, like strong. But apart, from being genuine, the most important thing is asking questions. I think that we have to learn or relearn how to listen to people. The better listener you are, the better speaker you become. And in this case, I think, and this is a healthy practice that I do myself. I mean, everything that I say here and on any platform, I do practice to a large extent, except for the part of being consistent, because I have a struggle with that part. But in any case, building a rapport and having a better connection, being genuine and listen. That's my
yes, I agree with Andy, but I like to also talk with my students about the mindset, not just about the strategy, language strategy, which is of course important because you have to have the tools to communicate, but also to be in the right mindset. I tend to think that if I'm a shy person in Italian, I will be a shy person also in English. So respect yourself, basically. If you will not succeed the first time, it's okay. There's nothing wrong with you. You're trying, you're learning. Even failure can be a very good learning process, basically.
Yeah. That's interesting, Claudia. One thing I'll finish on here is, do you feel when you speak a different language, do you feel you take on that persona of that language?
Yeah, I change. My students
Do you?
told me that I change. Also, my voice changes, basically. Yes, but I start thinking in a different way.
Do you?
Sure.
Interesting.
So I feel a different person. I speak 3 languages, 3 foreign languages. I speak English, Russian, and Spanish.
Wow.
And I am a different person in all of them. So yeah, you change when you speak another language. Yes, the way you think, the way you speak, the way you move. Also your non-verbal communication, let's say. When I speak Italian, I tend to do a lot of gestures, of course, but when I speak English, I'm more still, I'm calmer. Yes.
Yeah. The Latin, the kind of southern Europeans are, their hands are an extension of their mouth and their vocabulary.
But there is a reason. There is a
reason. There? Tell me, I want to know.
Yeah. In Italy, usually we reached language union, let's say, basically after the Second World War, the actual language union, because it was the time when the television came, basically. So they needed a real standard language, real Italian, basically standard Italian. Before that, the territory was divided into regions. The Italian territory is divided into regions, and every region, even every area of the region, has its own dialect.
Oh, wow.
So basically, it could be that if you live in you and another person, you lived in the same region, you may have a different dialect, a slightly different dialect from each other, basically. So given this variety of dialects and therefore languages, because Italian dialects are actually languages, because they stem from Latin.
Wow,
they need to use their hands to communicate with each other, because they didn't share the exact same language. So in order for them to be understood, they needed to accompany the speech with their hands. Yes, exactly.
Fantastic. Excellent. I didn't know that.
That was the universal language back then. And then when the television came, the television provided an actual Italian standard, let's say, for the language. So every region started to align with the standard, and
interesting.
They started to have to master a standard language, a shared language, a shared.
Will that be the same in the UK? Because the UK is very, very tribal with its accents and dialects, and when television came along, everyone had a standard British RP accent,
Yes, exactly.
And nowadays, it's the BBC, for example, have went from this RP back to more of a regional dialect and a regional kind of accent. Do you think that'll be the same in Italy?
Maybe, yeah. Why not? Yeah, maybe.
Excellent. Good. Andy, you okay? Anything you want to add on to rapport or anything before we move on?
No, I'm good. Let's move on. Next.
Let's move on. Fantastic.
Oh, actually, I wanted to add something.
Yes. Yes.
When Andy said something about preparing questions, etc., recently I read an article based on a research that was carried out, I don't know, recently, I don't know. They listed 36 questions that two strangers can ask to each other to grow intimate, like to become more
get close.
Yes.
Yeah, acquainted.
Yeah.
Yes. Maybe we can share that in the podcast link.
Yes, why not?
Oh, you have this, Claudia, yeah?
I think I can retrieve that. Yeah.
Fantastic. Excellent. That'd be interesting,
So we don't have our audience hanging like, what is this article? I need it. We're gonna find it for you guys. So
it was interesting because they did an experiment with strangers. They kind of seated at the same table and they started asking each other this kind of specific questions. Yes, exactly.
Brilliant. So if people are listening to the podcast, etc., there'll be a link. And then you'll be able to download this if we can get it from Claudia, yeah? The podcast details. Fantastic. Excellent. Right, let's have a look. That was the first one about rapport. We're going to be looking at the next question, which is, there we go. Can we put that there? There we go. This is very, very simple. Yeah, this is something that...
I don't know if this is simple.
Is the first day of the week Sunday or Monday? I live in Norway.
In Italy, it's Monday. But...
And here, Monday is the first day of the week.
Okay.
What's the first day of the week? Andy, what's the first day of the week for you?
Well, the thing is that I belong to the Western part of the world. So I think with a Western mentality. So for me, the first day of the week is Monday.
Yeah.
And it will always be Monday because based on how I was raised and my background context, like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, the 7th day. The day of the rest of the Lord. So
the Sabbath.
Exactly. So in this case, that's how I was raised, and in a Western culture, as far as I know of, this is the first day of the week.
Monday.
Yeah.
Claudia.
Yes, Monday for me too. But
Really?
When I switch my Google calendar into English, automatically it places Sunday at the beginning, so I don't know why.
Either. And it's really confusing when it does that. I hate it because I'm dyslexic. And the thing is that I really have to pay attention to certain details, and I kind of like, what? Oh no, it's not, because I have things already like with a fixed
yes, I have
in my mind. And of course, if it's not like that, I am like, what the F?
Yes, it's confusing.
Why are you doing
Monday?
I think I always think Sunday's the first day of the week for me, So I don't know why. And when I was living in Thailand, I would have Tuesday and Wednesday would be my weekend. So Monday would then become my Friday and Thursday would become my Monday. It was all kind of back to front and higgledy-piggledy, So for me... Is
there a reason why is it a Sunday for you?
Well, I don't know. I think because Saturday is the end of the week.
Oh,
it's when I was younger, I used to go watch the football, go and meet my friends.
A fresh start, basically.
Yeah, and Sunday would be the preparation day for going back to work. Okay. Monday would be the first day of the working week, and Sunday would be the first day of the week.
This could be the solution to a problem that I recently read online. So basically, Italian people are very mad at Monday because it's the first day of work.
Yeah.
So it's like, I hate Monday. I hate this. So if we change the start of the week, so it could be
to Sunday.
Solution.
I do have to say that I am a Monday kind of person. I don't know you guys out there, but years, I don't know. I think that I always kind of like been this way, but I am a Monday kind of person. I mean, what can be better than starting your week with an open, clean slate of possibilities? Like, I think that
Wow, you're so positive, Andy. I love
positive,
it.
yeah.
oh well, I don't know. I think that it's because of what Claudia said about like having the like the right mindset, which I also talk about that on my platform a lot. Having the right mindset, and this goes to, and it's going to be applied to anything. I mean, like learning languages, like going to work,
a growth mindset.
Exactly.
A growth mindset, yes.
Because if you think about it, I mean, imagine that you had a really crappy weekend, right? Crappy means like not that great. Exactly. It doesn't
informal
matter.
Don't use it with your boss.
Yes, exactly. And imagine, and this is regardless of when your week starts, right? If you're going to start something, and if you started on the left foot, what does it mean to start something on the left foot, guys?
Let us know.
Well, I have to start something on the left foot.
On the wrong side of the bed.
On the wrong side of the bed.
All right, there you go. All right.
So the thing is that if you're going to start something, anything, I mean, why are you going to start it with this negativity? I think that is so crazy. So I'd rather start something, but I mean, like in this good positive feeling. And if then things start going south, well, but at least I had like a positive attitude towards it, right? So
what does that mean, going south? Interesting bit of vocabulary there, Andy.
When
if something goes south, what does it mean?
And can be anything, relationships, whatever. It means that they're not going the way that you wanted to, so basically bad.
All right, so they're going down, right? South, yeah. I
have so many things happening on my mind right now, so many jokes, but I don't think that is like topic appropriate right now.
Brilliant. So are we in agreement then? Sunday or Monday is the first day of the week. Sunday for me.
Monday for us.
Oh, 2-1. I'm lost. Brilliant. Although in the Arabic countries, the weekend is Friday, right? That's their Sunday, right? In the Arabic countries, yeah, that's their day of prayer, I guess. Is that right? On the Friday? Yeah.
As far as I know of.
Yeah.
We got to confirm that with our audience. I mean, you guys
we need the help from the audience.
Friday is your Sunday in the Arabic world. Is that right? Yes or no? We need to know. Right, let's move on. Everyone okay with that? Let's move on. We've got a question. This was from Facebook. Do British people encounter any confusing conversation with Americans when they travel there? For example, British would be confused when American goes to the UK asking for the restrooms. So what they're basically saying is, and this is quite a question that I came across when I started my Instagram, was a lot of people get really uptight about the difference between British English and American English. And English people get upset when you say it's British English, What do you think? Do you think American and British people get confused with the different types of English, Claudia?
I get confused.
Do you really? Interesting.
No. Now I've tried to, I know how to recognize American and British, but at the very beginning of my journey, I was like, what the hell? Why?
Really?
You share the same language. Why would you choose two different words to describe the same item? Let's say waste and garbage. Was that trash and what was that? Bin? No.
The bin. Yeah. In the bin. Yeah.
I was like, okay, because I needed to double my effort and to understand, to learn everything. Yes, it was confusing, but now I am more knowledgeable about the differences between American and British. I think that British people, but I think this is a stereotype, but I am not sure of that. has the purest version of the language, let's say. So
The British do.
yeah, I think. And yes, I think American people struggle to actually understand everything the British people say.
Yeah.
This is a sensation that I have.
I saw a meme, and it was, you know,
exactly.
like in Chinese you have like the what do you call it? The simplified Chinese and traditional Chinese, you know, and it had the American flag, it had the British flag, and it says British would be the traditional English, and it had the American flag saying simplified English. You know?
This is what I meant. Yes.
I do understand what you mean, and my students struggle with this a lot, and I do struggle myself with it too, because the thing is that we've got to be aware that, and I think that we have to take a lot of load when it comes to like American English or British English. There are like a wider variety of Englishes out there, and we have to talk about this more often. This can actually be another podcast, you know, because the thing is that
actually I've done an episode on that. I talked also about that, because we tend to do this distinction, but there are a lot of more accents and languages variants, basically.
Exactly, because I mean, English is English. But the thing is that the varieties of this English, it's what makes the confusion, and what makes it so dreadful to some, or maybe more interesting to others, right? So from my view, what I think is that now we are getting better at that, which is that we are trying to include in our school book texts, for instance, we are like including more varieties when it comes to just one item, as you mentioned. And I think that being in contact with these varieties, varieties and vocabulary in general, widens our possibility to understand. Because in the end, we've got to think about successful communication.
Yeah.
You remember when I went to Ireland, because it was a business trip, and I was like, I mean, do I speak English? Hello?
Exactly.
Because again, you not only usually this happens, you know, when you go to the bigger cities, that you get like a, I don't want to use this adjective, you get like a less form of English that is like touched by regionalisms, or yes, I don't want to say clean English because it wouldn't be correct. I want to say that it's not influenced as much as you go like maybe to smaller towns or cities. I think that this happens in all countries, regardless of the language. So it was really challenging for me when I stepped out of Dublin and I went to a smaller town, and I was like, what is this lady saying? I mean, I didn't have a clue. And it's not about, since Claudia mentioned, you know, stereotyping, and it's kind of like, oh yeah, because we Americans, we're dumb, and you know, like, you know. I think that it happens. It could be. No, I'm kidding. The thing is that I think that it's all related to the variety of Englishes that we've got out there, and that we are simply not in touch with them.
I was about to say that.
Yeah, we ignore their existence. And about making an effort, I don't see it as making an effort. I see it more as like kind of like research. Yes, let's see, let's give it like a different feeling, and it's more like research, especially if you're going to travel to a different country that you know that they speak English. Have you ever thought that they might not use the same, for example, idioms? Yes, this is very common when it comes to you know, the differentiations between America, Canada, Australia, or right, or the UK. So what I'm trying to say is that basically it's not such a simple thing as just like American or British English, and that is like as if it's the only kind of
Yeah,
a variety.
you know what? I traveled to Prague like 2 weeks ago, and I know Russian, so I could have used Russian because they speak Russian, but I used English as a lingua franca basically. So I I needed to get used to their accent, to the Czech accent, speaking English, because this is another layer of difficulty basically. So it's, but what I realize is that it's all about getting familiar with the accent. So at first you may find it difficult to understand another accent, but as long as you are willing to learn and to listen more and to become familiar with the accent, you will manage to understand everything basically.
I've got a student in Argentina, and she's an English teacher, and she was saying that in Argentina they go by, when they're doing exams, everything has to be 100% correct. The accent has to be correct, each pronunciation has to be correct, etc. And I introduced her to a radio station in the UK called Radio X, and her mind was blown, because she was like, "Is this how people really speak in the UK? What does fancy mean? What do all these words mean that we don't know about? You know, really." So you're absolutely right. There's different kind of dialects and accents. It's no longer just the one size fits all, like the RP accent in the UK or the traditional standard American accent, you know. And the worst one for me, British kind of dialect, if you like, is the Australian. They have so many different words in Australia compared to the UK. They always shorten the words and add a Y on the end to everything, you know, like sunnies or chippies, or, you know, like Barbies, etc. So the vocabulary can become very, very different, you know.
If you guys think about it, there is like a variety of reasons behind that. And, you know, with television that unified, you know, some sort, we kind of like talk about it at the beginning. And there is like this reason where we can all understand, right? So there is there is like this big reason behind. Of course, there are other reasons that perhaps it doesn't come, you know, we were not supposed to talk about it today, but yes, like native speakerism and the power of the language and all those things, yes, that they can be behind. But on a positive perspective, I do understand that, of course, it makes it a lot easier for a lot of us, right? Kind of like focus on something, and then you can expand. Let's take it from there, right?
Good. So do Americans, everyone really all the native speakers, in my opinion, really understand they might, as Claudia says, they might use different vocabulary at some points, but in general, native speakers will all kind of understand. If American comes in and says, "Excuse me, where's the restrooms?" That's my American accent. All the British will start copying that accent, you know.
Yeah, you know what? Actually, at the when I was at university, they want us to master an accent, because as I was saying you before starting the live, we were expected to have a very high quality English, high quality Spanish, etc. So we needed to master an accent. And when I chose the accent I wanted to master, I was like, no, I will never master an American accent because I was struggling. And really to understand what they were saying. Still now, I'm not able to replicate the American accent. I think I would be very, very bad at this. But with time, I forced myself to listen to American speakers, to get familiar with the accent, and finally I succeeded in understanding the American accent, but it was not easy for me to do that.
There's different levels of them. I mean, New York accent would be different to like the Texas accent, for example, right?
Exactly. Even in the UK, you have the Scottish, you have the Irish. They are very
even
different.
the north of England to I always say if you travel 70 kilometers in the UK, the accent will change.
Yes,
You know,
exactly. Also in
50
Italy, dialects.
about is it? Yeah, it's the same, isn't it? From the south of Italy, when I lived there, to the north, the accent would be
Even
past
within
Napoli, it
like
would change.
even within like 40 kilometers, you could listen to different dialects.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's very, very tribal, isn't it? Very tribal.
Yes.
Excellent. Good stuff. Right. So that was accents. Let's have where are we? Here we go. Here we go. What else have we been asked? We've got time for a couple more. Oh, here's a grammar question. Do you have some tips to learn irregular verbs?
Memorize them.
It's such
No
a
tricks.
lot of
I'm
them.
sorry. I'm not about tricks. You won't get them from me. I'm sorry. You have to study.
You have to do the work.
You have to do the work. But how
have to do
for
the
example, the big one is come, came, come. That's
That
I
is the
find
easiest one. No, there is the
no
easiest
for
one.
native speakers though we for verb 3 we would use don't know if it's came or come for the past participle, you know. I think for the big thing I always used to, like you guys would say, would be use it in context and memorize, but don't memorize them all at once. Use maybe 3 or 4 at a time, you know, and memorize.
What I did was write them on a sticky note. And I placed I have my bedroom filled with the sticky notes, so you can use sticky notes if this helps your mind better remember them, but you have to memorize them. Yes, to create sample sentences, this could be another tip.
Yeah. Andy, what
provide
about you?
Context. Yes, to provide
Context is the key to learning, I think. You know, I always used to see students in the classroom and they'd write down 50 words. And I would say, why are you doing that? You're never going to remember it. It's taking up brain space for you, you know. Learn maybe 4 or 5, put it in sentences and practice, and then.
But you know, even another thing that is important to mention is that there are a lot of irregular verbs. So you just have to focus on the one that you use the most. So this could be another tip, because
find out which one you use the most. Yeah. Andy, anything you want to add?
Well, perhaps what I would say is that, and this is what I used to tell my younger students, like elementary students, because and I use the same tactic with my adults. It's more about what Claudia said about which are the ones that you use. But if you are going to do an action, yes, you're doing this action, so you have to think about this action, and then immediately, by doing this action, you'll try to remember, right, the verb
trigger, like a trigger.
Right? Yeah.
Yes, and this has to come automatically to your brain, like, oh, the verb to write, okay, is write, wrote, written. Oh yeah, there you go, and then you go ahead. So, and in this case, they took it as a game, like a mind game kind of thing. And it was easier to introduce in context and in speech, because the thing is that when we are allowed to, give ourselves a little bit more time when it comes, like, for instance, when we're writing, we can think about it. We can even cheat and, like, Google it. But what happens when you're speaking? Irregular verbs, they have the problem that they don't usually come natural to the second language learner, because probably their language background, they don't have this variation. So the thing is that my hot advice would be, like, just try to use it as a game. Yes, like when you're doing that action, yes, try to think about it and go ahead and and then you can go ahead and continue.
Yeah.
Another thing is, given that this is memorization exercise, let's say, you have to be aware of how your memory works, basically, because we have different types of memory. This is something that I do with my students. We do a test on our memory. So I usually read a text divided in sentences. So I read the first sentence and I ask them to repeat that, and then I read the second sentence and I ask them to repeat the first one and the second one. So they have to remember all the sentences all along. Yeah, but this is to test whether they are good listener, let's say. So if their memory works better on listening, let's say. Another good exercise that you can do is to watch yourself, to how you prepare you prepared your exams, for example. How did you rehearse for the exams? Did you walk? Because I know people who, in order for them to memorize, they need to walk. They need to to move, basically. Or do you learn better by writing things down, or do you learn better by rehearsing them with a pencil in your hand, basically?
Yeah.
Oh, can you listen to me? Okay.
Yeah.
I lost you for a
Listening.
second.
Yeah.
So maybe you have a preference for motion. Maybe you have a preference for having something in your hand. You have to.
So it's really what you're saying there is find the best way for you to learn.
Yes, your memorization style. I don't know how to label that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so true. I mean, some students will learn, they learn by reading the book. For me, when I was learning Spanish, for me, the best way I learned was reading aloud. Blah, blah, me llamo Ken.
Visual memorization, maybe, yes.
I always felt
memorization.
Yeah, absolutely. I always feel that. Go on, Andy.
No, finish your idea. I apologize. Go ahead.
No, the reason I thought reading aloud was good was you were learning three ways. You were learning with your eyes, you were learning with your mouth because you were also learning with your ears because you were listening to yourself.
Yes,
I just found for me that was a good way to learn. By speaking aloud. Andy.
That's right. But you know what? Apart from that, so that then we can close on the subject. The thing is that when it comes to verbs, they're not just separate beings that are out there. Okay, we forget that they belong also to this very specific structures, and we use them in very specific structures. For this reason, for me, context is king, because with context, and that's why I really believe that by doing the action, it's going to be easier for you to remember. Yes. And then you can use it again, like in different time tenses. That's why separate them and learning them separately from like real life context. I think that it's so hard and it's time consuming. Time consuming.
Okay, good. So that was irregular verbs and the impossibility of learning and remembering all the irregular verbs in English, right? Right, so we've got time for one more.
I don't know. So many takeaways, my gosh, in this.
I mean,
let's say that we're doing the last one.
We are.
So is this sentence below correct? What is this for? Is it a rule that we do not have a sentence with a preposition and how to correct it? What is this for? We've got the preposition for at the end, right?
Yes, that's the terminal P.
Is that correct or not?
Yes, that's the terminal P. That's a grammar rule, right?
Is it?
It's called the terminal P. Yes, exactly. You have to place the preposition at the end.
We have to place the preposition at the end. What is this for? That is correct, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Andy?
But in that specific case, because although it is true that we have to finish certain sentences or questions with the preposition, some people demonize this practice. So, and some people find it even incorrect. What I would say, to keep it clean, just do it in informal conversation or writing, if that's the case, but not in formal writings. Because, for instance, when I prepare my students for the Cambridge exams or the IELTS or whatever certification test, I always strongly recommend them not to do that because they're gonna lose so many points. Yes, their score will go down. And the reason is because a lot of people feel that this is incorrect, even though it is a grammar rule. So let's use it, but with silk gloves. Like, okay. Let's.
I actually, I had someone sent me a DM. It was a very expert linguist who was proficient in Spanish and Norwegian, etc. And they said, this is actually correct. It's just very informal writing. That's
Mhm.
all it is. I was under the impression that we couldn't put it at the end, and we don't learn all these grammar rules at school. When I was learning to be a teacher or training to be a teacher, an English teacher, I had to unlearn a lot of things. I could not tell you what the perfect tense was or the passive voice. We don't learn this at school, you know. So things like this we didn't learn. So I heard from a real live expert that what is this for is correct, but it's just really for informal writing.
Yes.
Cool. Anything you want to add? Well, I know we're running out of time here. This has
I
been
think that
another.
we're good for today. Oh my God, so many takeaways. I'm so happy about this podcast. It's so useful and insightful in so many ways. Don't you guys think so?
Absolutely right. Claudia, what do you want to add on to the end of this? Anything you want to add
Nothing.
on?
It was a pleasure to meet you. Yes, I really like this chat. I think that the people listening to that would have learned a lot.
Okay. Excellent. Well, what we'll do is we'll leave all our contact details on this, so you can contact us on our social media platforms. Also, as well, we'll make these slides available to anyone who wants to see these slides. You'll be able to download them from the website. If there's and any freebies, there'll be a couple of freebies that we'll throw in as well. Hopefully, Claudia, if you've got those 36 questions, I'll remind you that we mentioned earlier, if you can. Yeah. Brilliant. Well, thanks very much for watching, everyone who's watched it on our Facebook and on YouTube. And hopefully you'll catch up with us again very soon. So I'll say goodbye to everyone and see you later.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Right. How are you all? Everything okay? Everything okay?